As you can see right here, we've got some plans because we need to test this stuff and try and do as much as we can to disprove some of the things. Here we go. 16, 17, 18, 21. Oh dude, we did 500 pounds without getting any more strength. So let's just have them do this. All right, so this is where we've decided to do this. If you look over my shoulder right here, you can see all this alkali. And alkali, this is where you come to get stuck actually. But this stuff is terribly boggy, terribly soft. Here it is January and literally 56 degrees outside right now. And so nothing is frozen. And this is just super soft stuff. So lots of sandy loam, it's just goop. So when we get done, we'll have that many rows. However, that's not good enough. Over here, we'll do something a little bit different. Okay, that's my plan. That's what we're gonna do. Let's go set it up. So this is just kind of the primary setup. Cade came down here and worked on this with Carson. And this is our concrete line. This post has only been set 1 foot deep in wet set concrete. Next line here is foam, set 1 foot deep. Next line over there will be driven. Then we'll start over again with all the steel, where you've got the steel post there set in concrete 1 foot deep. So, hey, and by the way, right here where you can't see, that's where we keep the special stuff. So a couple things to note. When you're mixing your foam, make sure that it's mixed really, really well. And then what we found is for a 9-inch hole, it takes about 2 bags, and this is what we're left with for a 2 foot deep. So 2 foot deep, 9-inch hole, 2 bags. That one is 3 bags right there, and you can see, you can come back and trim some of this stuff off if you wanted to. We're not gonna worry about it because we don't care. But that's kind of your coverage, so it's not an exactly cheap way to do that. This is gonna be the cheapest, and then the concrete's gonna be kind of in the middle. The big problem with concrete is it's heavy, it takes water if you want to mix it. Some people like to dry pack it. We didn't test that myth in this one, so if you think we should later, make sure and drop a comment down below, because if we screwed anything up or you want to see something we didn't show, this is where you say that. And then we're going to go to driving all these posts. You've already seen 2 3/8 post driven. That's not super special. If you haven't seen a video like that before, check this out right over here or over here. I'm not sure where it is. Check that video out right here, right here. Then we're gonna drive these 4x4 posts, and don't show them the secret stuff down there. Don't show them the secret stuff. But before we get into all that, did you know that the reason these guys are helping me is because we really like teaching people this stuff? And we've talked about it for a very long time, but it's finally ready. The franchise, it's launched. And we don't wanna launch nationwide like everybody else and screw things up. So we thought what we'd do is structure our rollout so that it's very, very organized. Currently we have Colorado, Utah, Nebraska, Wyoming, and soon coming some more right here around Wyoming, which is where we're going to launch this from. So if you have any interest in any of those areas or franchising outside those areas as we develop, if you check out the description below, there's a link that will take you to a place where you can get all the information that you need about the franchise and what we're going to do. But without further ado, let's get back into this. Now, I haven't told you what these 3 posts are for. It's because you're gonna have to stick around if you want to find out. They're a special test. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna quickly, using the Rhino Multi Pro XA, our absolute favorite driver, we'll drive these last couple. We'll do 1 foot, 2 foot, and 3 foot here, and that should complete all of the test subjects. So we've talked about it a little bit, and what we think we're going to start with is we're going to start pulling on it with the excavator bucket, because we'll be able to see the tension, we'll be able to see the scale go up. They brought me kind of a lackluster strap here. It's good, I don't know, they said like 88,000 pounds or something like that. It looks a little light to me, but we're going to give it a try until it freaking gives up the ghost. So that sets up this experiment. Hopefully we've done a little bit more than Dan potentially, because we've got 6 different rows of posts here, actually 7, because we have a special row that we'll get to here in a little bit. As you can see right here, we've got some plans because we need to test this stuff and try and do as much as we can to disprove some of the things or the comments. First row here is driven steel. Next one is going to be foam steel. Remember, the first row here is set all at 1 foot deep. The second one's 2 foot deep, and then the furthest one away from us is 3 feet deep. So we've got driven steel, foam steel, concrete steel, driven wood, foam wood, concrete wood, and something special. The something special down there, you're just gonna have to wait and see. Now, you're probably wondering why they're all different heights. We didn't care about the height because we're gonna pull on all these at about bumper height, right here, about 2 feet off the ground. We figured that'll give us a really good idea of the strength of each one of these type of posts, as well as the footing that it has. So right now we can see, yeah, we're gonna go for like 24. That'll be pretty close. What we're gonna do is we'll start off slow. We might use the Mini X. I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna use to pull on these, but we do have a crane scale, because one of the problems Dan was having is he couldn't really accurately measure the tension or the strength that each one of these had before the footing failed. So we'll do all our measurements on here. We'll pull them at exactly the same spot so we can get a really good idea what our strongest footing is, where the weak points are, and where maybe some of these fail or fail faster with some real numbers. So concrete's going to be the cheapest. All these are set the same way, 9-inch holes. And then the same thing here. We've got the driven, and we were able, because the ground's not frozen. I don't know that this is going to be super, super good. I suspect that the post will not break on that one. This one's 2 foot deep. It seems pretty stout, and this one, we actually didn't get it to 3 feet. We actually got it like 2.5 feet right here on this one. So the rest of these should all be in to their correct depths. Again, because we had I don't know how much we used on this one, but we had a little blowout here. We could trim that, but for this purpose, we don't care. I think what I really want to see is whether or not any of this stuff can be pulled out after we pull on it and break it. And then if that doesn't work, we'll go to plan D, destruction. Plan D for destruction. So what we have here is a crane scale. He's going to use the excavator, pull on each one of these posts just a little bit, and we should get a peak reading on this. We'll kind of watch this and then watch the post at the same time a little bit. So here we go. See, this is what we're talking about right here. Look, that thing's already failed. The whole point is that the ground is not stout enough to snap this post on. When we finally see good results, what we'll see is we'll see this post break. Now, we're getting some pretty good tension here. We got 304 pounds. We need to readjust. We'll see how many pounds it takes to actually pull this thing all the way out of the ground, but 304 I think is about where we're at. Maybe you should be in line the other way. We're at 2 pounds right now. All right, I think we're good. So we're just gonna go all the way until this rips this thing right out of the ground, but right now we got about 5 pounds on there. Go ahead, and what we'll see is it'll just pry this up and it'll all come out. Yeah, this is nothing. Yeah, what do we got? At 260, it started pulling it over at like 275. So I would say 1 foot in the ground is not sufficient for anything with a wood post, and that is driven. So let's go on to the next one. 29, 90, 100, 200, 300, 500, 600. Watch out, watch out, watch out. 989, 1089, 1298. 1591 is what I'm reading right now. That's our peak. 1591, and you can see what happened is the ground gave away and the post still didn't break, which means it still isn't good enough. This is what we're talking about when we talk about depth versus strength. We'll know that we're deep enough when we don't do this and the post snaps off. You can see that was the peak reading on our 2 foot step depth. So we already got like 5 times as much value out of that because our peak reading on the other one was still only 300 feet. So 5 times as much strength out of another foot. I think that's pretty telling. All right. Oh, wait. We're at like about 1,000 pounds and we've got this thing snapping off. You see how no longer we're prying up the ground behind it? We actually broke the post because the ground had enough structural stability to be able to support it. Well, the post was what finally gave up the ghost. So right now we're at even less, 1,041. I don't think he's going to be able to pull on this anymore without getting any more strength. So let's just have him do this. I'm kind of curious. This is what we see a lot too when we actually see damage and it's driven, is we do see it broke down in the ground just a little bit. I was just wondering, oh, there's a big knot right here. So this is going to be your weak spot right where that knot is every time. Here we go. 19, 22, keep coming. 68, 80, 90, 100, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 208, 218, 221. That's it, man. Wow, this is kind of interesting because what we see is the foam didn't actually give way. It was the ground, the same as the driven post, exactly the same. So we can tell again, the foam wasn't the problem afoot. It was 100% the soil and the ability for it to withstand that kind of pressure. The foam was fine, but we only got to 221 pounds. So actually worse than the driven post by 100 pounds. All right, hit it. 100, 200, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000. Dude, that's again, look at that. So we actually had a little bit of breakage and this could have been partly attributed to us. But again, it came out, it did not come out of the foam. We simply, this is a cold seam right here where we didn't have enough foam the first time, but the foam is still attached. I wouldn't be able to get this foam off if I wanted to. Or this is probably a little bit slidey, but down here it's really bonded. And again, we saw the ground heave up. And on the crane scale, we got a maximum of 1,019. So, woo, see that came off? It came off. That's not very good bonding, I'm gonna say. It's probably worth noting that this video is not sponsored by any concrete or foam companies. This is all stuff that we just purchased. It's not an endorsement or criticism of any of these people. We're just basically testing the different things to see what works and how well it works. All right, hit it. It's 71 so far. 1,000, 1192. Keep pulling, just keep pulling all the way out. This is another one that we added some foam to. And I would say there's another place where the post broke right at a big knot. Not super surprising. And on the crane scale, we reached a maximum of 1192. But you'll see the difference is we had all the strength of the post, the hole itself, and everything stayed put. It was absolutely 100% the post that snapped off. Had nothing to do with the strength of the soil. So between 2 feet and 3 feet, you can see the difference. We finally reached the maximum strength of the post, which is what we want. We want to see that post break because we know then we have the most strength that we can possibly get because the post is now our weak link. But the real question, does concrete matter? And does it matter when you move to steel? The first one, concrete, 1 foot. Remember, concrete solves all your problems. If you listen to everybody online, concrete is the answer for everything. You just need more concrete, that's all. Okay, we're good. Any guesses on this one? I guess we get like 250, 300 is probably, ooh, this isn't good. This is not good. We got 100 pounds already coming out. Oh my gosh, 135. That was it. That was it for this great big ball of concrete. It actually performed worse than the foam and worse than the driven post, this concrete that was supposed to solve everything, because we don't have to put it in the ground that deep if we just use hard gray stuff. I think maybe we can say that it's not an accurate statement. All right, so we're set up for 2-foot concrete. All right, 200, 300, 900, 1,000, 12, 13, 1,314 pounds. Keep going, just keep yanking it all the way out. 2 foot, still pulled it out of the ground, and we're at 1,314 pounds of pull force, peak pull force. And we pulled it right out of the ground. So that actually did a little bit better than the foam, but very, very close to the same thing. We've seen the same thing driven versus foam versus concrete. At 2 feet, it just isn't enough. You can pull it out. That's why fences lean, is because all that moisture and rain over time is making those things, it's exerting force and the wind. Think you get a big windstorm and then all of a sudden you have the rain falling. Now your ground's soaked and it's just beating that post back and forth. That's where you have trouble, and that's where you need that extra depth. All right, so this is the third post. This is concrete at 3 feet, and we're gonna zero the scale. The last one is at 1,314 feet, or 1,314 pounds. 300, 500, 600, 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 12, 13, 14, 1440. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. It popped right out of the concrete. Man, what was our peak reading on that? 1440, so with the concrete in this particular ground, we didn't get much more, about 100 pounds more pull on this, and it's still pulled out of the concrete, probably because the wet and the wood swells and shrinks and does all that stuff. You can see this post is still very wet, and this was set 2 days ago. So should have had more than enough cure time for sack concrete, but this is kind of what we see with sack concrete too. It just doesn't, it's not as strong. I just don't feel like it's near as strong as the concrete that you get out of a truck. I feel like this one may not have been 3 feet. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like this one was not a full 3 foot. Does anybody else feel like that? Do you have a tape measure? Because this is 2 feet up, right there. Huh. Why is this one set so... This was only set 2 feet, so it's no wonder. Oopsie daisy, we only set a post 2 feet. It's no wonder it didn't perform any better. Shit. Huh. Okay, well, you know what? That's on us. I don't know what happened here. But what I would have expected to see is that, like the foam, and like the driven, we would have seen that post finally snap off, but this one was only set 2 feet deep, just like that one. So it's not surprising that we only got 100 pounds of pull different between the two, and they both failed. I don't think it's that important. If we feel like we need to come back and visit this, we might, but whoopsie daisy, somebody forgot how to read a tape measure. Let's go on to steel. Let's go down here. Okay, this is the first up. We're gonna go driven, foam, and then concrete on the steel, and we'll see if it makes a difference. 18, 20, 30, 90, 189, 260, 269 pounds. That's it. That's it, see? This is what failure looks like with the driven post. Same exact scenario. Now these are a little heavy because they have dirt in them. Yeah, that's not very good at all. But it was about what we saw. What were we, 300 pounds on the foam with the wood? I mean, it's right in there at the same thing. Even though we have a lot less surface area here, it didn't change things a whole lot. This is driven 2 feet. Let's see. 200, 300, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,180, 12, 90, 13, Wow, it just kind of almost cuts through that, doesn't it? I don't know that we're going to say it was about ready to pop that out. We're basically capped out, but again, 1,721 pounds. We're never going to break these posts off. But you can see it was cutting through the soil here. I would say this one's close to enough, but I think we'll see better performance on this one, especially as you look at it what happens and how much harder we have to pull on this one. We probably won't pull this one all the way out, especially going that way. But we didn't see all the heaving and tear out here that we did in some of those others, so I think we're getting close. So this is 3 feet driven steel. Let's see what we got. 1479, 1500, 16, 17, 18, 2000. Okay, let's just call that good. We're at 2,324 pounds, but what you're seeing now is we're just pulling it through the soil. There is nothing heaving up. We're not getting any of that leverage action down here. This post just strictly bent. That's all that happened. I suspect that's what we're going to see in the concrete as well, and I don't know about the foam where we're going to see that one bend, but we should see it bend. I don't know if we'll get it to pull out of the concrete. We'll see. This will be our first post. This one's set 1 foot in foam, maybe a little shy. I'm not going to, actually we did this and it was 14 inches, so we're about 2 inches down. This is probably a pretty good true 1 foot set depth on this one. We'll see how it performs. Remember, all the other ones have broke out somewhere before 300 pounds, somewhere between 200 and 300 pounds. So we'll see if this does any better. All right, what do we got? Okay, we're zeroed. Go ahead. 20, 60, 80, 100, 188 to just over 2, and that thing's done. That 304. So the foam did about as good as driven. All of them are falling out of the ground about the same. Maybe the foam did slightly better than the driven, and we'll see how it performs compared to the concrete coming up. All right, we're good to go. This is post foam 2 feet with steel. $30 pounds. I already hear cracking at like 300, 400, 5, 6, 7. Well, I got up to 1600, that's just slightly better. I mean, it was cracking pretty good. But again, all the foam separated. Pretty common theme here. And now the question is, what happens at 3 feet? Okay, we're good. Steel post 3 foot foam set. This one's gonna take some power. We're already at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 11, 12, 13. 16, 17. What do you think? Can you pull it all the way out? Just back up. Keep going. There we go. What did it take? To pull it all the way out, we were 2,200 pounds even. As you can see, so ground was probably right here, and we're bending it about 6 to 10 inches down inside the ground here is where we're bending this post at. So here again, we can say now we've got a good solid hole. We didn't see any leverage prying up over there. 3 foot is deep enough. And I want to remind you, this is terrible ground. This is not the best of the best. That's why we're here and it's not frozen. All you people with really terrible ground or freezing situations, you know, let's say Florida sand, you need to be going deeper because that's just shifting stuff all the time. This is the thing we want to get through everybody's head really is that cutting a corner and only going a foot deep or 2 feet deep, 18 inches simply isn't good enough for a fence. If you have any kind of wind or any kind of outside forces, moisture, bad soil, it just isn't enough. If you go 3 feet, you'll probably find that it will meet all your needs. But let's see how concrete performs on steel. I feel like when you're down here, you just see that leverage and that concrete ball just makes it even worse, to be very honest with you. All right, this is concrete with a steel post, 1 foot deep, go. Ooh, this isn't doing good at all. We're only 190 pounds and we're already popping that thing right out. 389, I guess it did a little bit better maybe. but not great. 428. Yeah, that wasn't amazing. We got maybe just a little bit more, but nothing much. You know, the real story here is that this post is completely reusable. It pulled it all the way out of the ground, didn't bend anything, and that's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. We didn't even reach the yield strength of our post. Okay, scale zeroed, and this is steel post, 2 foot deep, concrete. Let's go. Where are we at? Yeah, this isn't gonna go well. 882. 882. That's it. That's all we got, man. 882 pounds. Again, I want to point out this post is completely straight and reusable, which means we didn't do our job. We could totally reuse that post. All right, right at the 2 foot mark. Zeroed. All right, let's go. This is 3 foot steel and concrete. Maybe. 1,300 and 1,400, 16, 17, 18. Can we pull it out? That's the question. 21. Oh, dude, we did. We pulled it out. So, we got about the same out of that it, like what were we at? 2,200 pounds to pull that out, so not a whole lot different than the foam over here. Again, we pulled it out of the concrete. I just don't think that the wet set concrete, the bag stuff, is as good as what you get out of a truck. I just don't think it bonds as good. I don't think it cures as good. I think there's more ways to screw it up. It's good enough concrete to put in the hole and get at least as hard as the ground around it, but this concrete is not much different than, yeah, it's just not super strong, especially the way most people mix it. If you put this concrete in the ground dry and then hope the ground moisture, it's going to be very, very weak concrete, and you're going to see a lot of this post pulling out of concrete. We don't see that when we set with truck poured, truck mixed concrete, so keep that in mind. So I have a whole different idea for those 3 posts that we've got set over there, and that's why we have the generally, because we're generally going to test another myth. And what I want to know is, if we just ran those things over, number one, is it going to break at the ground and then break at the bumper? Are we going to see 2 breaks? And number 2, does one of these perform differently, because all 3 of those 6-inch posts have been set to 3 feet deep? So we're going to test this one last thing and just see what happens there, because we're curious and we just want to ruin stuff. Let's be honest. Okay, let's do this. Who wants to see destruction? This post here was driven to 3 feet. This one was set in foam, 1 solid pour of foam all the way up. Mostly, that's not true. And then that one was done in concrete, sack mix concrete, like the rest of them. I'm kind of curious to see if any of these is going to fare better. I'm also curious to see if any of these flips up any dirt, or if they break at the bumper and then they break down there. I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen to the top of the post, where that's going to go. As long as it doesn't come in the car with me, I think I'm good. The other, yeah. Well, I don't really know what's going to happen at all. I mean, we have the radiator and all that stuff hanging down there. This may be the last time we see this car, but if it isn't the last time we see this car, one of the other questions we've always wondered is, can you get a car to flip over by hitting a post? If you'd like to see something like that, let me know down below, because we're kind of curious about testing that myth. Can we hit a post on one side and make it roll? I just want to know, what kind of a post would that take, and how would we set that? I'm just a little bit curious, but right now I'm more curious about what's going to happen with these posts. So should we do it? What do you think is going to happen?
I think this one's just going to flip over and those 2 will probably break off.
Okay, what do you think?
That one's going to snap, that one's going to flip over, and that one's going to flip over.
What do you think, Cade?
I think the foam's is probably going to be the weakest, and then the concrete will be the second weakest, and the driven will be the
Here's the problem is, the problem is we're not going to be able to see which one's necessarily strongest, because I'm just going to run through all 3 of them all at once. Okay, so first post, dude, this thing snapped off below ground somewhere about a foot. Then we have more. That looks like that. There's another break somewhere. Like, how many pieces to these posts do we actually have? Okay, so I was right. The reason I knew that was going to happen is I've seen enough people on the fire service run into power poles. They break at the ground and then they break somewhere higher up. That's exactly what happened. It hit here. It broke it right here at ground because that's the point, and then it broke right at the bumper because the top of the post goes clear back and it just snaps them off. So it's not surprising that we got two different pieces out of each one of these posts. This one may be broken. We're going to dig all these up and just inspect what happened below ground. But we can see that the posts were not the problem. We can see that none of this, I don't think the foam was necessarily a problem. I mean, this thing seems pretty, I didn't notice a difference. I didn't notice a difference when I was hitting them. That one felt like it gave more resistance than the other. It was basically all just 6-inch wood. The concrete post, if I'm going to be honest, feels like there's nothing. It was solid, and there's no crack around the ground here. I see some gap right here. And then again, I saw a gap here, but the post still broke. I can tell you, had we put a scale on these, the defining point would have been the fact that it would have just snapped each one of these off at ground. All of them probably would have held, even the foam. What I wanted to see on this was just what impact does, and if there's anything below the surface that we're not seeing.
All right.
Yeah, I think maybe it separated it just a little bit. But all in all, the foam's still good. I don't see any separation down here. And honestly, the foam held up for the whole impact. Broke out just a little bit like the concrete, but not much different. Hope you learned a little bit more about the difference between driven posts, foam, and concrete, and how it plays out in the real world versus what Dan's experiment showed us in the studio. Now, if you're just super interested in becoming a fence contractor because you've seen all the stuff we do and we make it look super fun, don't forget, there's a link down below where you can learn how to become your own SWI franchise right here in the Rocky Mountain region, and those territories are finally opened up, and we're super excited to bring on the first few of you and get you up and started and show you what fencing life can be like. If there's anything that you feel like we've missed, definitely tell us down below, or if there's an idea you'd like to have tested and it revolves around fencing, that's what we do. That's what I love to do. As always, I'm Mark. We are America's Fence Company, and I hope you have a good dang day.